Hey guys, Falcon here, and welcome to a cinematics tutorial for Arma 3. In this, I'll show you how to install Gcam, a smooth camera tool for Arma 3, how to use it, the editor, some basic scripting and animation as well, so you can get what you need for your cinematics. But by the end of this, you should be able to make a cinematic like the one I made at the beginning. So to start off, find your internet browser, use Chrome, search up Gcam in the search bar. Go to Gcam Arma 3 Miscellaneous at Armaholic. Very good website for all Arma mods. Should look just like this, maybe with different advertisements. And this gives you a description, basic installation help, and everything. So if you can't follow how I do this, then you should be able to do it from this website. Now what you're going to need to do is scroll down to the very bottom of the web page. It's the same with every Armaholic page or mod of any kind on this website. And you select the click to download Gcam A3 Arma 3. Should download pretty quickly. In New Zealand we have pretty crappy internet, but it's not a big file. Should get down pretty darn quick. Now you go to where you downloaded it and open the archive using WinRAR or 7-zip. I use 7-zip because it's free and easy to use and you don't get annoying pop-ups. And then drag it to wherever you want it to be. I'm using the desktop just for simplicity's sake. And I already have it on the desktop since I've already used this. Now all you need to do is go to that folder, copy these two folders inside of it, and go to your directory for where your Arma 3 folder is. It should be something like this. Find your Steam folder, it'll usually be in your C drive, but I have a 3TB drive where I store most of my games, so I have it in there. So here's Arma 3. If you look at the directory at the top, it is Steam Apps Common Arma 3. It is worth mentioning that on the side it says that you need to have a specific line for the launch options, but you don't need it. As you can see, I don't have it here, and Gcam works fine for me. Now that you've installed the mod, technically, now you need to open up the Arma 3 launcher to activate the Gcam mod. Navigate to the mods tab, as you can see there. I have a lot of mods installed, so this may look confusing, but here I already have Gcam installed, so I'm going to uninstall that very quickly. If it doesn't show up on the list down below, then I'll show you how to find the folder manually. If you select the local mod button near the top of the window, navigate to where you've placed the mod, and then select the @gcam folder. This is the folder that contains all the mod files. You'll receive a prompt in bright green down the bottom of the window asking if you want to load the mod that you've just installed. If you select yes, then it will show up there, and there it is installed. Now make sure you have all the other mods you want installed for your cinematic. I use many, such as other maps like the Mausk and Winter Chinaris, and a whole bunch of weapon and even a zombie pack. Once you've done that, simply press the play button and get in game. Okay, now we're in game with all our mods loaded and Gcam all set up and ready to go. You want to go to the editor tab and then select whichever map you want to do your cinematic on. I have a lot of mods installed, a lot of maps and everything. This is because all my mods are already set up according to the servers that I play on, so I change servers and it builds up a lot of mods. If you don't have this many maps here, then don't worry. Most of them are not meant to be here normally. But anyway, I want to pick a basic one to start off with. One of the Chinaris maps, classic for DayZ. Since the Arma 3 version that you most likely play on most servers is Summer Chinaris, I'm just going to load this one up right now. Ignore the error message, you might get one or two depending on how many mods you've got installed. It's just part of it. Now, of course you want to check your video options. Make sure you got everything looking as beautiful as you can get it. Since you're making a cinematic, you want it to look pretty. Those are all my video settings that I use. I change them around when I actually make different cinematics, depending on what I'm making. But that is the standard that I would use for maybe a standard daytime cinematic. The next thing is to find where you want to actually do your cinematic. If you already have footage for an episode that you're going to make for DayZ or Arma 3 or whatever, then you'll probably know where your location is going to be. You probably already know what your character is going to be wearing, so you can just go there and figure it out from there. However, since I'm making the cinematic just for the purposes of making a cinematic tutorial, I'm going to just pick a random spot. Right here we found a little island with a lighthouse on it, which is kind of nice. The next thing you want to do is to go to the right and pick your character out. If you have specific weapons and such, then I'll show you how to add those at the end of the tutorial, but for now, we'll just use a base guy. With a lovely shy tack, and a ghillie suit, of course, because we love our ghillie suits. Now that we have our guy, you can hold down shift and click and drag on him to change the way he is looking, or you can hold down alt and drag on him and change his altitude. So you can put them on top of buildings. For me, I want to put them on top of the lighthouse, right there, and looking out that direction so it looks nice and cinematic. You can change his stance and a bunch of other options, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Now that we have our character in here, you can see the red ring around his green icon. That means that I will be playing as this character. So if we go in, like we are here, you can see that I'm playing as this character now, and I'm on top of the lighthouse with my shy tac. I'm actually not entirely sure if that's a Lynx or a shy tac, but it doesn't matter. It's a high-powered sniper rifle. If you want any footage specifically from first person or third person, maybe even, of your character running around, then this is how you do it. Now you're in game, no other entities, apart from a few rabbits. Let's change that, alright? Now since I'm making a DayZ cinematic, I have a zombie mod installed. Classically, for Op 4 and down the bottom, listed obviously as zombies. I've got a bunch of different choices for this. Let's chuck some in here now. I typically go with walkers because they're the classic type of zombie and they have the most interesting animations. However, I need to go to compositions because I want a large group of zombies. I don't want to place every single one individually. So I go to zombies, walkers, and find a horde that I like. I don't need too many because it's a small island and well, you're not going to have that many zombies around. So I picked a small civilian horde and now I start dispersing them randomly. I'm deleting all the group tethers because I don't need to have them walking around or going crazy or anything. I just need them to be where they are and stay there. They will walk around on the spot, but they won't specifically go towards their leader this way. This isn't important, but if you want to do this, you mouse over the blue lines that you can see and you press delete on them. Now we have our zombies in. Let's place a few in a few interesting places. I noticed this pier here, which looks quite cinematic, so I thought I'd put a zombie out here to make things interesting. Also another interesting thing, I'm pretty sure that's not a civilian zombie. Now to show you how to use Gcam itself. We've gone through some of the basics of the editor, now we're in game to show you how Gcam works. You scroll down to Gcam using your mouse wheel, and then click on it, and you come to this basic beginning bit, where you can look around your character and all sorts of things. You move the Gcam camera with WASD just like you would your standard character, and you press Z to go down and Q to go up. This is good for some recording, and it adds a nice smooth feel as well when you're going around, so you can get some nice shots. Very simple. Very nice. You can also zoom in quite a bit. That zombie's walked off the pier for some reason. I don't think they drowned. You can zoom in using the scroll wheel, however it is field of vision, not actual zoom. So when you scroll backwards it stretches everything out and makes it look a bit weird, which can be cool for some shots. I'm still attached to my character, but I can get angles of other things as well. I'm trying to reposition here to get a nice shot of the zombie and the lighthouse. As you can see, it's a bit difficult with this mode. There are other ways to change that. To open the Gcam menu while in game, press L. It usually will come up with an error message, don't worry about that. As you can see here, there is a list of all the entities that I can watch with the Gcam, or spectate if you like. There are 3 buttons here as well. One is the behind button, which automatically toggles us to have the behind view of our character. If you turn off both focus and follow mode, then you'll be able to act independently from your character and move the camera wherever you like. However, it will not be as smooth. It won't have this smooth edging that you get when you're on a character. Now I've spawned in a different character and use the Gcam on him somewhere out of the way so I can then switch to the helicopter. I can move around as much as I like, and this lets you get some cool cabin shots, like this one. Very nice, very simple, gives you a different perspective for the cinematic. It's a good shot. Again, you can switch back to a different character. I've set our main character, the ghillie, to go towards the helicopter landing site, so he's jumped off the rocks and he's now swimming towards it. Unfortunately with Gcam, if your camera goes underwater, then sometimes you'll be stuck to the ground, but that's not a problem here, we've got another good shot. Another particularly useful option is the time slider, which means that you can change how quick time is passing in game, which is great for incredibly slow motion shots. Right now I have the time scale set to 0, which means there are no animations, nothing is moving at all right now. The helicopter is poised in the air, not moving whatsoever. This does, however, make your movement very erratic. I've brought the time scale back to 0.1, which is a tenth of normal time. Now I can get a nice slow-mo shot of the Huey going past the island. Now right here I got quite lucky. I told the main character to go towards the helicopter landing site, and so I thought I'd see what he's up to. Caught him jumping off the edge, which is really cool for a cinematic shot, but I didn't think it would happen. I assumed he would run around the rocks. So this led to an interesting opportunity for a shot, and so I redid it a few times to get a few different angles of him jumping into the water. The most useful part of Gcam is the fact that it has such smooth movement. Take advantage of that when directly spectating a character. It leads to smooth movement when you raise or lower the camera, creating interesting shots like this one. It can be quite finicky, but in the end, you get a good shot. Now I've gone over the basics of Gcam, I'm going to show you some basic scripts and the standard camera used from Arma 2. The first one is the skiptime command. If you go into game and play as a character and press escape, you can use the debug console and type this in. If you put in skiptime and then a space and the number of hours you want to skip, you can press enter and do so. Alternatively, you can put a minus symbol before that and it will reverse the time that many hours. This is useful if you need a specific time of day in a recording. Now this is a command that was difficult to find, but is incredibly useful. It increases the timescale of the world around you, however it does not increase the speed of your character, so you can create some interesting looking cinematics. This script is perfect for time lapses. As you can see, it moves the clouds around erratically and will also change the weather very quickly. Here's a shot I got while I was just testing it out. Run, little bunny. This is great for either the end of your cinematic or simply cinematic interims during your video when you want to explain something using text or voiceover. Now another very simple thing which may come in handy when you're making your cinematics. Say when you place a vehicle, it places it with a full crew. In this case I'm using an MI-17 filled with Op-4 soldiers. We don't want soldiers in there because we want to fly it ourselves. Press the nifty little key at the bottom, place vehicles with crew, and when it's unchecked there will be no crew inside and you can operate the vehicle yourself. Decided to test it out and have a little fun. Oh yeah. It's always fun to go for a little joyride through Cherno. Scare yourself by going onto the factory bridge and flying low like a maniac. Something people won't usually think of, this is great for establishing shots, is by going really high in the editor. You can see that the clouds are physical things. If you set up the shot right, you can create amazing establishing shots using the clouds and the land underneath. As you can see, the land sticks through. A way to get Gcam ready for this is by placing a helicopter fire up in the sky and then switching to it. Then turning off the follow and focus mode so that you can freely look around. I was trying to turn it off there and it sort of freaked out. Helicopters in Arma 3 that are piloted by AI will automatically descend, so make sure you disable your focus mode quickly. Now you can see that you can move freely and very quickly above the ground. Another thing that I've neglected to mention earlier is that Gcam, the higher you are, the faster your camera moves, the lower you are, the slower your camera moves. These make great shots because you can see the land underneath, and it creates a great establishing shot for your cinematics or your videos. Unfortunately, there's a texture glitch with the water, which means I can see all the lakes on the map underneath, which is a problem. There's a way to turn that off, but if you can't, some fancy editing afterwards can always help. This is another useful command. This is fairly obsolete. This is the one I used to make Arma 2 cinematics. It still works in Arma 3, there is a better version of it. If you put this code in exactly, I'll try to remember to put these in the description, it'll put you into the old style camera. A more efficient way to do that is to put in the text that is on screen now. It'll achieve the exact same thing. This is what I use for vertical panning shots of structures, especially like the one in my Namelsk video where it changed from summer to winter. The controls for this are fairly simple. They're numpad 8 for up, 2 for down, 4 and 6 to look left and right respectively. You can also increase or decrease the FOV, which is like a zoom command, by pressing plus or minus. If you don't like changing the FOV, you can press 5 in the numpad to return it back to its normal state. Now I'll give you an example of what I use this for, since it's fairly obsolete with Gcam. Perfect for panning shots of vertical objects, just like this. Now they've gone over a few simple and useful scripts for you to use for your cinematics. I'll show you how to use the basic animations for Arma 3. This will add a bunch of depth to your cinematics. However, it can be very, very finicky sometimes. Something that I didn't show you before is if you go to the fourth button along near the top right, it'll give you the movement commands, where you can tell your characters to move to a specific location. A useful thing to do is to give the character you want to do animations with a specific name at the variable name box near the top of this option. Get into this menu by double clicking on the character you want to edit. I'm calling this character Man1 for reasons of simplicity. I also have the player box checked to say that this will be the character I play as. Identity is important. If you want your character to have the same face every time, or a specific face, make sure you select it. I use the default face as my character's face always. You don't need to worry about this if you are playing as that character, because it will automatically apply your face to it. Now that you named your character and you make sure he's got the correct face and everything, you go to the third tab along, or press F3 to go to the trigger tab. Now you drag and drop a trigger down here. I'm using some simple values of 5x5x5 and an elliptical shape, meaning that I'll have a 5x5x5 cylinder surrounding the middle of the trigger. Now if you type in the condition box true, that means that the code below will always be active. The on activation box is where you need to place your scripts. Now the first thing you want is the name of the character we want to do the animation. Of course this is Man1, the character that we named earlier. Now you want to type switch move, all one word, space, add 2 quotation marks and a semicolon at the end, which I seem to not have done yet. Inside the quotation marks is where you're going to place the name of your animation. Now you need to find what animation you want. You do this by going into game as your character, go into the animations tab in your debug console, and then you come to this screen where you can watch your character do all kinds of animations. It's a bit like prodding a monkey and telling him to dance, which some of them do look like. It's kind of entertaining. These are all the animations of basic movements. You should recognize them if you've played Arma 3 before. I like this animation of axe abusing, so I've pressed Ctrl C and come back into game. I killed him, you don't need to worry about that. I'm now filling the quotation marks with axe abusing and going into game to test it. I've also added a second character so that I can watch him doing it rather than having my character do the animation. If an animation has a different starting point, don't worry if you can't immediately see the character. As you can see, this one sort of teleported behind me. It's because the animation starts at that location, so he'll move around and do his thing, which is kind of cool. You can imagine how this would be useful for a cinematic. If you couldn't figure out the trigger part, add the code directly to the initiation or INIT or init box at the top of your characters menu that you get from double clicking on them. There are a few other scripts that are useful for this. If you want, you can stop and check out what they are. Remove all weapons. This means that the character that you've put it in the initiation line of will no longer have any weapons. Remove backpack will obviously remove his backpack. There's a bunch of useful things like this to do with gear that you can search up on the internet. You can add and remove gear as you please using some of these lines. If you search up Arma 3 weapons in Google and then go to Arma 3 config weapons, you can go directly to the Bohemia Interactive site, which is the creators of Arma 3, and get all the class names from there, which is a better source than some random websites. So this will have images of the weapons and it'll have its designation to the right of it. The designation is what you want, so highlight this, copy it with Ctrl C, go back into game, add this code, and then between the quotation marks, paste the weapon you want, and it'll give it to him. See here, he's a black Shitak. That one is a Shitak. Now that you've learned the basics of animation, here is the editing wrap up, which I won't show you any of my secrets for my editing. My amazing editing. It's not really that amazing. But basically, you put it into a timeline, edit it up as you like, add sound effects, music, everything you want, especially those big black cinematic bars. The bigger they are, the more cinematic it becomes. I use Sony Vegas to edit. This is the end of the tutorial, and this is what the cinematic from the beginning of the video looks like in the timeline. I've made sure that none of my audio is diegetic whatsoever, which means none of it comes from the original game audio. I simply add every noise in afterwards. This means that you can get a nice controlled sound, but it's not important. I really do recommend Sony Vegas as a program. It is quite difficult as a learning curve, but once you learn it, it is perfect for YouTube videos. Most important part of this is making sure that you change your video settings so they're nice and interesting. I've added this, as you can see on the left half of the preview, that is the original video, and on the right side is my edited video. Adding a cinematic look to it is important, because Arma 3 is incredibly oversaturated. You need to tone down those colors a little bit, or it becomes offensive to your eyes. If you know how to use color curves and everything from previous things that you've worked on, use that, it is quite useful. Anyway, if you found this tutorial useful, or you just liked the video, let me know. Subscribe for more content, leave a like if you want, I'll see you guys out there. Bye. Oh, as a side note, I finished the renovations on the house for the minute, so I'll hopefully return to some sort of consistency with videos. I'll see you guys out there.